This is another FreeSimpleGUI tips video. I do these mostly for my future self so that I can remember things that I've learned along the way. But if you've found your way here to this video, welcome to the channel, and I hope you learned something while you're here. Today we're talking about the window.read command in FreeSimpleGUI. Any persistent window will have a while true loop with a window.read in it. And to be honest, when I first started messing with this library, I said, oh, okay, so we got our while true, and it's just going to loop and loop and loop, and it's going to check for a read every time through the loop. But that's not actually what's happening with this style of read. This is actually blocking. Window.read is blocking until you press a button or click a checkbox or something like that, and then it has an event, creates an event, and then it'll run. That comes back out of it, and then you can act on those events. So that was a little different, and the reason that they don't want to have a non-blocking here is because when it's blocking, it allows the processor to do other things on your PC computer, so it's not taking up all the CPU time. Coming from Arduino, we don't have to worry about allowing other processes to work usually. We're only worried about one thing, so we try to stay away from blocking commands, but this is what they did. We also use this on the Raspberry Pi, and I said, wow, I wonder how that works out. And I recently did a project and didn't even think about it, but it worked out for me, in that case. So we actually have a Pi. We're going to VNC into a Pi. This is my Raspberry Pi that I got going on. And this is a little project that I got, and you can see it has the regular window.read, but it also has a button on it here to get echo, and it runs and does this function that I have here at the top. And this function actually has some sleeps in it, and to go through this whole function, it takes loop through the function, it takes about 5 to 6 seconds. I never really noticed it before, but when I was preparing for this video, I said, oh, I bet I can't do anything with the GUI during that time because it's not looping through and checking, not coming back to check and do a window read. So I can just show that that is true by running this. So when I get this get echoes, while I do this, none of the other buttons seem to work on it. So I'll put some data in here. And then I want to do this check results. Everything works like it should. So anyhow, so in this case, like I said, I couldn't act with it, but what we're doing is if somebody's running this, they're worried, looking at the values that are coming up here, and they're not going to be worried about clicking buttons or anything at that point. So it works out just fine that way. So a lot of things you want to do. Now, if you were trying to blink LEDs or something with the digital IO pins, you might have a problem with that unless you're doing it in a separate thread or something. But for most stuff, it's going to work out good for you. So we can also, that was on the Pi. So I also have, this is Python on my PC, and this is actually a demo for the webcam, for displaying the webcam using cpenCV, CV2. and opening the webcam. And the only thing I got on going in here is I got a little bit of down here where I'm actually calculating how many frames per second I'm getting and displaying it on top of the photo frame. So I do have to run this. I gotta close myself here. So let me go up here and stop video. All right. So now I can run this. I should be able to run this all right. But as you can see, before I do that, we got our window.read, and you can actually enter a timeout value in here. They tell you don't put anything less than 10 because it kind of makes everything in the computer jittery. So I just don't do it, but we can show, like, they tell you the bigger this number, the better, but we'll look at what we got going on. Let's see if it'll run now. All right, so we got it running. So you can see we got 30 frames per second. That's what I've got set up here, is 30 frames per second. So we should be getting about 30 frames. Okay, so we're still having time, like when I hit this exit button and move the mouse, we still got control over a lot of everything. So it doesn't really, so I hit exit and it, like I say, it takes one of those 10 millisecond blocks that we're putting in there and doing that in it. So anyhow, what if we maybe double this to 20 and we'll run it again. And we're still getting about, there, dropped to 25, 27. So it's not actually letting, it takes a lot of processing for OpenCV to read in a whole frame of pixels and display it on the screen 30 times a second. You figure that is like 33 milliseconds. At 30 frames per second would be 33 milliseconds. So between the 20 that we're holding up and the time it takes to do that, we're actually cutting into our frames per second. So we can exit out of that and we can even go higher. Let's see, what if we went like 40? See how slow that should definitely be less. So. And now we're down to 18, 17 frames per second. Supposedly that higher number is going to make our GUI more responsive, but I don't know. Anyhow. So anyhow, that's what I've learned about the window.read thing, that we probably want to leave it at 10 to 20 milliseconds timeout time. Supposedly, I guess most of the examples, they have the time out equals 10, but I found that it automatically it knows that you want the timeout if that's the only thing you put in there. I guess if you put other attributes in there, you'd probably have to add the timeout. So anyhow, that's what I got on the windows.read, but I'll probably take out this frames per second and maybe post this on my GitHub. This line of code here is the one that you have to be interested in if you want to try to get it to. I had to search around a little bit to find this to get it to work with the GUI, with FreeSimpleGUI, and that's an important frame. So I'll try to post that. Anyhow, that's what I got for today, and more to come. Bye.